I've got this Troy-built weed eater that hasn't been used since last year. When I was using it, it would run for about 10-15 minutes and then it would quit. I never looked at it. I have another one. I put this one away and drained the fuel out, stored it for the winter. Thought I'd take a look at it this spring, see if we can get it going. Let's do it. I guess the first thing to do is just fuel it up. I always drain the fuel and run it out of the carburetor before I store them in winter. Otherwise, you're going to clog up your carburetor and have to pull that out and clean it. So I'm careful about that. But let's see if it'll run and how long it'll run. I'll go ahead and hit the primer bulb. Nothing so far. Ah, we're getting a little through there. We got some fuel leaking. Let's see if it'll run. Choke on. Half choke. Guess I'll put the choke back on. Half choke. No choke. Let's check for spark, and then not getting a lot of fuel pushing through here. Maybe the carburetor's clogged up. I'll drain the fuel back out of it, just so I can check everything over. Fuel filter doesn't look bad. And the fuel lines are nice and flexible. Let's take it into the workbench and check it out. First thing I want to do is check for spark. There we go. Plug's a little black. Smell some fuel on there. Alright, I cleaned up the plug a little bit and the gap's okay. It's between 20 and 25 thousandths. Nothing that should hurt it, keep it from working. And we'll check for spark. I don't have metal to touch that to, so let's see. I can just put this in there. There we go. Now we'll see if we get some spark out of that. Looking for a spark right in there. Oh yeah. Yeah, we got good spark. Now that doesn't mean that the coil's okay, but it should start with that. But sometimes those coils, when they start going bad, it'll spark like that when it's cool, and when it gets hot and the coil expands, it'll quit sparking. So you still might have a bad spark. Alright, I think I'm going to pull the carburetor off this real quick and just check it over, give it a quick cleaning. Set that aside. Release the throttle cable. You want to pay attention to the way the fuel lines are hooked up. And we can move this aside. And I'm going to just quickly take this apart, clean it, and throw it back together. These little ports get gummed up real easy. You want to check this diaphragm. This is what operates your needle valve down there, opens and closes it. You want to make sure this is nice and flexible. And you can see this one's good. It's not all dried out, hard. So we're good there. I'll pop the needle valve out real quick. Want to be careful. I'm holding this down. You don't want the spring to go shooting off somewhere and then you lose it. There's a little spring under there. So I'll pull this straight out. There's a spring on there. Set that aside. Keep the screws together. And I'll pull the primer bulb off. And that other diaphragm looks okay. Just set this aside. And I'm going to take this off real careful. You don't want to tear that. Oftentimes I'll take a razor blade, take it off real careful. Otherwise you're going to order a kit or a new carburetor. I might leave the gasket on there and just pull this off. I like to use a little wire, and these twisty ties are nice. Just strip the paper off. There we go. And it gives you a nice fine wire to make sure everything's open. Oh yeah, that's good. Set that aside. Now this screen can get clogged, so you want to check that. It looks like there's a little debris in there. And then I like to blow out all these little ports. There we go. That wasn't shooting through. There might have been a clog just in that little, there's a little teeny tiny hole there where that needle valve goes down. I don't know if you can see that, but I was blowing through there and nothing was coming through the screen, and then finally it burst open. So that might have been it. The adjustment screws can come out, and before you take these out, if it was running good before, you want to turn them clockwise till they bottom out and count how many turns so you can set them back where they were. So this one is 1/2, 1, 1 1/4. Now I can pull it out and I'll put it right back where it was. I just like to wipe off the end of that. You want to be real careful of those tips, so when you tighten it down, you don't want to tighten it too hard and damage that. But then you can take your carburetor cleaner and just blow through there. See, that's clear now. And I go ahead and put these right back in. Just do one at a time. Now, depending what kind of carburetor you have, you might need a special tool. Thankfully, this just has a flathead screw. But you can buy those little tool kits for around $10, and it pretty much has tool for any kind of carburetor you have. 2-cycle, that is. Go until it bottoms out. There it is. Now we'll come out 1 1/4. There's 1/4. There's 1/2. 1. That's our 1 1/4 there. Okay. We'll put her back together. You always want to pull that throttle lever there to get it to seat down in there because your idle screw's in the way. Good. Now, got to put this needle back in. Okay, another try. Helps if you have little fingers. There, I got it. That sit down in there. The screw in, I like to go counterclockwise. Make sure that I don't cross thread it till I hear a click. There it is. Tighten her down. And double check it. Good. And the spring's good down in there. Perfect. Now I can tighten that down. Good. Now the diaphragm can go back on. Good. All right. We can put it back on the engine. Okay. Now, I can look at this, and this fuel line here is connected to the filter. So, this line goes into the purge bulb, so I need to hook my fuel filter up to supply the carburetor to this one here. If you forget. And the other one goes to the purge bulb, primer bulb. And we'll hook up our throttle cable. Good. I want to get this snug so there's no air leak. But not too tight. It's all aluminum, you don't want to bust it. All right. Choke's working. Throttle's working. Our filter back in. And the cover. Snap in. Good. Let's fuel it up. See if that took care of things for us. And we'll check out our primer bulb. See if that's filling good now. Nothing.
That's not good.
Now, even though this puppy's seen her better days, I want to try one more thing. Since that primer bulb doesn't fill well, I want to look at one other thing on the carburetor and see if we can get this running. And it just takes a minute to take this off and do what I'm going to do. Now, we've already gone through the carburetor, but because this primer bulb's not working so well, I just want to take this apart and make sure there's one other passageway that's open and not clogged. And it was leaking a little bit around here, so that tells me there might be a little back pressure. There's a little hole underneath this rubber, and it comes through here. And if that is clogged, I'm going to pull this off. See that little hole there? I just want to make sure that that's open. Comes right through there. Okay, throw it back together. As you see, this doesn't take long at all. Just a minute. Well, maybe 2 minutes.
You made quick work of that.
I got to get this back on. Got to kind of work this back and forth. Make sure you get it seated down in there just right. There we go. There. Felt it go in. Very good. All right, let's take it out, see what it'll do. All right, let's give it a try. Choke on. Hey, hey, hey! Come on! Half choke. Hey, hey, hey! So the compression isn't great on this at all. And it's probably not worth putting any money into it, but I had to order some air filters for a Toro recycler mower that I'm fixing. And while I was on there, I saw a carburetor for this for under $13 shipped. It's hard to pass that up. This has been a good weed eater for me. I use it for edging around the yard. And I thought for 13 bucks, I'm not going to throw it away. So I'll show you how easy it is to change out the carburetor on one of these. If I wasn't filming, literally I could do it in less than 10 minutes. So I'll show you today how to do that, and you can decide if your machine's worth the investment of an aftermarket carburetor, which is kind of hit and miss, but I think it's worth a try. Let's do it. Well, it's getting harder and harder to get this thing going. I'll try to start it up now. I haven't started for a week or so. The primer bulb's not working so great on this. That makes it kind of hard to go ahead and give it a try to start it. It's not pulling at all. But let's try to start it. And I'm getting tired of fighting with this thing. I can usually get it going, but that's why I went ahead, ordered an aftermarket carburetor. Thought for under 13 bucks, let's give it a try. Like I said, eventually I can get it going, but I'm tired of fighting with it, and I thought a carburetor might take care of it. Let's go change it out and see what happens. All right, here's what I got. It's like $12.58. I got like 4 feet of fuel line. Got a bag full of goodies. Carburetor, and the adjustment tool. And I think I have there's a primer bulb on here, and I have, I think, 2 extra primer bulbs in here, 2 gaskets, 2 fuel filters, 2 primer bulbs, and a spark plug. How about that? All for $12.58. So let's go ahead and take the other one off. Put this one on and see what it does. Now we'll see if we can get it to prime. Oh, much better. Oh, beautiful. All right. And now the big test. And I've got my carburetor adjustment tool handy. Choke on. It just started to kick there, so then I put it to half choke. I didn't hook up my throttle cable. That would help. But it's sure idling good. Sometimes I forget to do that. And this one's easy. All I have to do is pop it in. Sometimes you have to take the carburetor back off to do it. There we go. Back on. Ho, 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 ho. Wee doggy. Not a bad deal for $13. I don't have to fight to get this thing started. And I got 2 new primer bulbs that I can use on other projects. I got 2 new fuel filters that I can use on other projects. And I got an adjustment tool and a spark plug. How about that? If this video was a help to you, give her a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And I look forward to helping you with other projects online.